Yes, my question is, we've been having problems with especially in the schools here in the Valley. I've been visiting other schools in different capacities, but here in the Valley especially, the schools are very neglected, like I said before. And I'm agree with Ms. Maria Cruz. The UTLA is concerned about the way the students have to return. The only problem is my question going to be this one. Is somebody else who going to be checking how the schools develop the plan that they have now? We actually need somebody else to check if the schools are compliant with whatever we have to do it. It's very important for us as a parent, because as a parent we've been talking, calling, making forums and everything that we can for our children. My major concern is our children and the parents also. And I'm really appreciate the effort the UTLA is making, because we need to listen. We need to be here sometimes. And I'm really appreciate the work they're doing, but please think on us. The schools over the hill, they didn't suffer the way we're suffering. In these schools, sometimes the parents have to go and to clean the restrooms and even the classrooms. We need,
thank you, Juanita,
either one more custodians or somebody else to help us. Thank you.
Absolutely, Juanita. Thank you so much. So what we're hearing from parents is a real concern for the schools that didn't have the resources, the toilet paper, the soap for pre-pandemic. So how can we ensure that our schools will have the resource that they need as we move into the reopening? Cecily, can you quickly share what you know about additional staffing and materials? And then before that, is there a proposed date for reopening that you can share with us?
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you, Juanita Garcia, for being on the call today. Miss you on the board. So there is no definite date at this time. There is a plan for sometime in April, but there is no definite return date. Remember, we're working with vaccinations and having educators have full access to vaccinations. So want to just put that on the side. To go with what Juanita brought up, every single school, I toured a school this past week with the superintendent. Every single school, that's 950 schools in our LAUSD school district, have a report card that will be in the main office. It has a checklist of all of the things that are to be completed on a daily basis. There is an increase of 50% custodial help on every campus. I was assured of that by Austin Buechner. Also, there is a COVID hotline number that can be called by educators and parents and school personnel if there's something that is amiss. There will be a COVID compliant task force on every single site where folks, stakeholders will be able to come together and come up if there's some complaints about, ventilation or something. They will be able to use that hotline as well as the task force to ensure that whatever the issue is, it will be taken care of. The increase in supplies and custodial help will not come out of the general fund from the school site. It will be coming from the general fund of the entire school district budget. I was assured of that as well. So cleanliness is absolutely paramount for every single parent and guardian who sees the schools and educators as well. And Austin Buechner has assured us that that will be primary in this health and safety. So that is something thing that we are going to have educators and parents be able to be looking for to ensure that there is a safe return that looks at the health and safety and cleanliness of every.
Catherine, please share your question with our guest today.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Actually, I have a couple. First of all, with 30 students plus, really, per classroom, how in the world do you plan to achieve social distancing? The other question that I have that I think is very important is with the new variants, especially the one from the UK, that are supposed to be taking over and be the predominant variant soon. What are we doing about testing the students? Many of them, I'm sure, will be infected, and some will be asymptomatic. So is there a protocol for regular testing of the students, and what would be the frequency? And then what is the protocol should there be an outbreak at a school?
Thank you so much for your questions, Catherine. So, Cecily, I'm gonna send that question to you regarding social distancing. We have some of the highest class sizes in the country. What can you tell us about social distancing and then a testing protocol for school campuses?
Yes, so let me take the second question first around, I can't, I want to make sure, folks understand, yes, we know that there are variants out there. So the way that testing will work is all staff and students will be tested every 2 weeks. So that is going to be taking place. So every 2 weeks for testing. As far as a class having 30 kids, which is, in my opinion, as an educator and a mom, I will tell you that's too large of a class anyway, but I digress. There will be 2 cohorts in elementary school, 2 in-person cohorts or 2 remote cohorts, or there could be 1 in person and 1 remote. The cohorts will be based on the parent survey responses that LAUSD put out this past week, and then there will be staffing considerations. We don't know exactly how that will be set up, but it is according to the square footage in classrooms, because there will be 6 feet of social distancing. So 6 feet of social distancing. It will depend on the square footage of the classroom and whether or not, when LAUSD gets the parent survey responses back, how the 2 cohorts will be handled.
I'm sorry, Rachel. Let's go ahead and hear from Rachel.
Okay. Well, part of my question was already answered about how many pupils per class and the social distancing. Now, I'm asking about classes like middle school and high school where they switch classes. Who is going to be in charge of disinfecting the classes as they leave their class to move to the next class?
Thank you for that question. Thank you, Rachel. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go ahead and pass that to Cecily real quick.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rachel, for the question. With this secondary schedule, there will be no moving classrooms like how it is in a high school and a middle school campus, where you move from one teacher to the next. There will be no moving from the classroom. However, there will be 10-minute or 15-minute interval breaks, and the educator is not the person that will be sanitizing the space. It will be the custodial staff coming in, spraying the surfaces, and then after, I think it's it takes between 5 and 7 minutes to sanitize a classroom space. Then folks will be able to come back into the room, but there will be stretch breaks, so students will not feel like they're trapped all day. There will be stretch breaks, and the custodial staff will be the ones in charge of sanitizing the space at all 950 work sites throughout this district.
Recognizing that the high rates in our communities have greatly impacted our families. So let's go number 323-427. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
My name is Antonieta Garcia, and I'm calling, and I'm here because I am concerned of the high rates here in the East Los Angeles of COVID-19. So far, the rates have not been going down. I do see some of my neighbors getting sick. And I understand that there'll be a possibility that the schools might be open, you know. And also a lot of our essential workers here in the East Side, they're not vaccinated because there's no COVID vaccines located around the neighborhoods, around the area. So people have to drive further, and then there's other people that they only have transportation for the bus. So my question is that why can't the schools be open depending by the zip codes? For example, if the East LA area has more COVID-19 impact, so let's not open those schools. But I do understand that there's parents that they want to take their kids back. I do understand, but I'm keeping my daughter virtually because also about the PPE. For how long is this going to be? Because I understand that this is a tentative agreement. So for how long this PPE is going to go on? Is it going to be going on forever, or is it just going to be until our kids are in school and then that's it? And then the following semester, there's not going to be no more PPE.
Thank you for your question, Antonieta. Thank you for your question, Antonieta. Cecily, we're going to pass that question off to you.
All right. Thank you, Antonieta. Okay, so a couple of things. So I'm trying to get all of what you said and formulate my response. The first thing is, I think it goes back to what I just said around how the vaccination distribution rolled out. I think you spoke about how come, certain zip codes could open and then other places still have hotspots. And we're really talking about the inequities that lie that, really COVID-19 really lays bare that there's inequity, right? There's been decades of disinvestment, we know. So in saying that this place doesn't open, but this place does, continues to create an inequitable situation set up for all of our students. And so where you have wealthier, healthier communities being able to go back to school, more marginalized communities would not have that access. And so that's not equitable. So that's why just trying to look at how we build it out for everyone in this district in the most equitable fashion as possible. As far as PPE, the district has at every single 950 school sites in the district, there is enough PPE right now for a month's supply for everyone at the school. Does that mean that it will stop after a month? No. They will buy a new supply and a new supply and a new supply. What we know in this pandemic is nothing is going to be normal after this point that we have been in a pandemic. So it doesn't mean our tentative agreement only goes until June because that's when school let out. And then we would pick up again in August when we come back. That doesn't mean in August that we're coming back to how it looked like before. So I think all of the callers and everyone should get out of your mind what school looked like before, because we're in a different era. We're in the era of a pandemic that's raging. So things are going to look different. Does that mean that we need to have lower class sizes because of social distancing? The answer to that is yes. Will we probably have to be wearing masks starting in August, like when we come back to school? The answer to that is yes. Will we can figure out other ways, but social distancing and masks will still be the norm for us until we come out of the pandemic. And I don't see us coming out of the pandemic anytime soon. So PPE will still need to be addressed. And this district has committed to making sure that we have that as a health and safety standard. So that's where we are as we move forward. Thank you, Antonetta.
I also wanted to ask if there seems to be a lot of people who are upset about the secondary hybrid plan. And so I just wanted to hear what the thinking was behind the plan so that we can sort of clear things up.
Thank you for that. Cecily?
Yes, and thank you, Nicole, for just being here, and we appreciate it. We heard very loud and clear from educators that it was important to have a secondary hybrid schedule that didn't include the simultaneous teaching where you're actively teaching your students in front of you, and then also teaching students via the computer, right? We also heard about teachers being able to rove from classroom to classroom, right? Moving kids from classroom to classroom, and also moving teachers, also redoing the whole master schedule. And so at middle and high schools, the master schedule is a big production that moves kids, moves teachers, and we know that was something that folks told us we didn't want. If you watched, Buechner's address on Wednesday, he said the biggest thing was the health and safety standards. So having folks in stable cohorts of a very small number, that's why they chose homeroom, or sometimes it's called advisory. Having that, and we use that during the school year to build the social emotional learning time. So educators who have those advisories have built camaraderie and friendships with the kids during this year, and the thought process behind it was just having that stable connection with those advisory kids to be able to talk and have those conversations, and really just for socialization in keeping with the health and safety standards. Is it the best, schedule? No, it isn't. But it is according to health and safety standards. Being in the small cohort of, not more than 15, that was the thinking, and that's what Buechner's address also came out with as well.
Young children do not have we don't have a vaccine for young children. So at this moment, students are not going to be required to be vaccinated. I know that question has come up a few times, but Cecily, talk to us a little bit about, how do we envision, ensuring that students keep their masks on, that students are able to maintain 6 feet distance. We're getting questions around resource and playtime. Talk to us about the vision for that and still maintaining social distancing.
Yes, and thank you, Helen, for your question, and being a valued partner in your child's education. So I think, no one knows what it's really going to look like. I can say that there will be more adults on campus, more paraprofessionals or classified staff. I think there's going to be use of modeling, making sure that, folks remember, just reminding our folks to keep their masks on. One of the things is that, let's say a kid drops their mask or something, each child will be provided with a pack of 6 extra masks, and there are disposable masks that will be given to kids as well. There will be no eating in the classroom. Any classroom, there will be no eating because we're trying to make sure that people cover their nose and mouth. As they go outside, there will be, socially distanced, and a paraprofessional will be leading those children outside. I'm not sure, but they will be marking the grounds at school sites, I believe. That's what I thought I heard, in 6 feet social distancing. So there will be that. As far as play equipment goes, there will be no one playing on that said equipment. Those play structures will not be utilized because they're high touch areas. So they will not be utilized in that space and time. So, we don't know all of those pieces, but these are the general pieces that I would bring up.
Thank you for that, Cecily. And we know that the development in the recent agreement with United Teachers Los Angeles and LA Unified create a set of standards, and what that looks like could be very specific to your school site. So we also encourage you to connect with your administrator and your school team about some of these more specific questions. I think it's Zafer from Tahunga. Will you please go ahead and ask your question about mask enforcement?
Hi. I just wanted to reiterate, the question was specifically how the mask will be enforced in the, school. Is there a plan for it? There's a very, very valid question that you don't want police involved with that. So what is the path forward on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Zafer, and I'm going to go ahead and pass that first to Joseph. So we just heard Zafer from Tahunga say we don't want police enforcing mask wearing. Joseph, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. That's something that we heard overwhelmingly from students and Students Deserve about thinking about going back to school and the different things that they were going to be experiencing and not wanting to have that experience of being policed or criminalized in that kind of way. And so the victory of getting all cops off of campus in LAUSD is huge in terms of just limiting the amount of contact between students and armed officers, right, who are trained to criminalize and to see them as criminals and as offenders rather than as students engaging in juvenile behavior, right, or adolescent behavior. And so, that's a great question. And one of the things that we're replacing, school police presence on campus with is school climate coaches who are focused on building relationships, right, with students and building a school culture and a school community where students feel seen and feel heard and feel able to come to adults with their difficulties. So in terms of addressing some of those kind of pieces, it's really important to just have additional staff, additional adults on campus who are able to build relationships with students. And another piece specifically around the health, right, the health considerations of masks and other things. I can pass this especially because I know that part of the agreement is that each school, I believe, will have school site teams to help with compliance in terms of cleanliness, in terms of masks and those things, and hopefully, again, in a way that really emphasizes focusing on students' health and safety and the safety of the health of an overall community rather than criminalizing. What we know is regular kid behavior. I mean, I don't know. There are a lot of parents on here. I'm sure we know that we have struggled, that folks have struggled keeping their masks on their kids in public, or whatever, right? So we know that's going to come up in school settings as well, and we want to make sure that we're prepared for that and prepared to address it in a way that's not criminalizing or further traumatizing our students. So I'll pass it to Cecily.
Thank you for that, Joseph. So thank you. Oh, sorry. No. Go ahead, Cecily. Sorry, Esperanza. Thank you, Joseph. And thank you, Zafer, for the question. And I think that's the $1 million question, right? Is to make sure, like, how do we enforce mask and health and safety protocols without policing children on campus or deflating them or, treating them in any sort of way. There will be classified staff on hand at every site that they've been undergoing training according to Austin Buechner, and, making sure that people actually have, their masks, doing a lot of modeling, saying, hey, make sure to, have your mask covering your nose and your mouth, doing a lot of that where they're touching their own selves, right? Saying, bring your mask up or so forth and so on. And there will be a lot of that. And that also means that the administration staff has to be doing some monitoring as well, not putting kids down, but just doing reminders. As a parent, I have to remind my son, all the time to make sure, and I'm always talking about, this COVID-19 disease that's, this virus that's out there, to make sure to, have his nose and mouth covered. So I think you can do that in a way that doesn't criminalize students and doesn't make them feel a certain kind of way, but just lightly reminding, gentle reminders to make sure that they are understanding what's happening.
Task force and stakeholders. Who exactly are these stakeholders, and also who makes up this task force, and are they scientifically trained to spot what is necessary to keep the kids safe?
Thank you for that, Tanya. Cecily.
Well, sure. So I'll just jump right in. Thank you, Tanya, for that. So the stakeholders on the task force, principals were given directives from Austin Buechner to create the COVID task force. Those are stakeholders at the school site. So I would imagine that they're classified folks. I would imagine that they are certificated folks. That means that those are the members that I represent, right? Could be a counselor, could be the psychiatric social worker on campus, could be the nurse, definitely the chapter leader. I'm sure there are parents that will be involved. I think they're taking some of those folks from the local school leadership or site-based leadership at the school site. Or it could also be a chapter leader designee there. It's going to be those folks, so they don't have a scientific degree. But like I said from the top, every single school has a report card checklist because as you're coming into schools, you're going to be looking and noticing as an educator in your own classroom what is missing and what should be fixed if there's something to be fixed. That means that you can call the hotline and also talk to the COVID task force to say, hey, in this classroom, this is what we saw. We've got to get this fixed for health and safety. So making sure that health and safety is the number one priority as we move forward.
Wish us all the best in this endeavor.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Arthur. When we launched the poll question about getting involved with us, don't forget to press 1, and you can help us out. Cecily, that was around ventilation in small rooms. Thoughts about that? Right. And so, yes, shout out to all the folks, the musicians and folks teaching, band and working with our youth and giving them musicals. So shout out to all of y'all. Yes, ventilation, small rooms.
Austin Buechner said that there are 1,000. They purchased 1,000. I'm looking at my notes here. 1,000 HEPA filtration units for our district for that exact reason, so that you can access that. You would do that through your administration. Also, there will be some ongoing negotiations for VAPA, that's visual and performing arts, because we know that the VAPA electives, and instructors have different sets of needs. So that will be coming forward in a different side letter. We have not started negotiations just yet for VAPA folks. So those questions I have it written down here around music teachers and what needs to happen for them as well. So those negotiations are going to be forthcoming. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that, Cecily. So I just want to remind our callers today that our meeting is sponsored by Reclaim Our Schools Los Angeles, again, to discuss what matters most to parents, families, and caregivers in a safe and racially just reopening of our schools. My name is Esperanza Martinez, parent organizer with UTLA and Reclaim Our Schools Los Angeles. And today I was joined by Cecily Maillard Cruz, president of UTLA,